This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
Austin Drummond. It's a case that has caught the attention. This is the one where 4 people ended up dead, a baby taken from the residence where everyone was dead, one of their children, and then left out by a mailbox. Austin Drummond is a man that they say is the guy who did all of this. He says, but wait, there's more. He's a man with a violent history and now accused of murdering those 4 members of the family, publicly claiming that he was actually a confidential informant for the FBI. According to him, he was recruited to help expose corruption and drug smuggling in Tennessee's prisons. And when his cover was blown, everything unraveled. According to him, prosecutors, of course, haven't backed that up with any evidence. From a behavioral and counterintelligence perspective, Robin Dreek is here. And Robin, I got to ask, and I kind of think I know the answer, and it's 2 words. When he says he was working for the FBI, your response is?
I'll give you 1 word. Ha!
I was going to go with bullshit, but yeah.
I knew what you were. That's why I was even going to slim it down to 1. Likelihood of that is slim to none.
Yeah.
With a lot of reasons that are pretty obvious. First of all, control. This guy would be a controlled nightmare of any handler. And you'd have to get otherwise illegal activity authorized. You need a lot of special permissions to do something like this. And for what gain? And you couldn't, he's a lifelong liar. Mm-hmm. You couldn't believe anything he's saying anyway. The whole premise of it is ludicrous. That's why I'm glad he's trying to do that, because it's just adding lies on top of lies.
It's quite a story. I got to say, wow, bonus points for coming up with this one. We hear a lot of stories from people who get caught. This one I don't think we've heard in at least quite a while. I know other people have made that up and tried to use this excuse in the past, but
heard it.
Yeah. But this one just doesn't come to mind anytime recently. Let's talk about it for a second, because you're going to have your conspiracy theorists, and that's what he's adding fuel to his own fire, and I think he knows that. So you're still going to have conspiracy theorists saying, "But what if? What if?" Let's talk about what it would take to be a confidential informant for the FBI. And would they ever want a confidential informant for what he's claiming he was an informant for?
So the reason to have a confidential human source or informant is it's an investigative technique, and it's considered a sophisticated investigative technique. You do things like that on your escalation of sophistication, your escalation of intrusiveness in people's lives. And so it's usually one of the ones you go to first. But in order to do it, there's a lot of checks and balances that are put into place because of dealing with some real nutters out there. And also, people try to profit from these things. People try to use it as leverage for manipulation, like this guy is. And so in the world of counterintelligence, when I was working with confidential human sources, the first thing you want to have is a confidential human source that, one, has access. And so, okay, he checks the box on access. The second thing is to access to information that is actually going to be used in an investigation. So, and he makes claims that he was helping out with these investigations. So next, the question is, so why him? Why would those investigations rise to the level that they'd want more intrusive technique like that and utilizing him? Because the next thing that you're looking at when it comes to confidential human sources is what I've already said is control. Mm-hmm. You control the actions of the individual so they don't go beyond the bounds of their tasking. Because if you are tasking a confidential human source or something, the Bureau is now liable for those tasking. So a lot of times we put more restraints on what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say, so they don't get themselves in trouble and go over the edge of illegal activity. Mm-hmm. Because if it's illegal activity that hasn't been authorized by the Attorney General, then you can't use it in court. Mm-hmm. So it's useless information because it was gotten illegally because they didn't have authorization to do this illegal activity. And then then the information coming from him, you'd have to get 5 other sources just corroborate his information. So it's just ludicrous that. Now, I'm not saying it's not a remote possibility. If there's a high-end investigation that they didn't have any other way to get at someone at and get information for, but the likelihood is slim to none. And also the other thing when it comes to that control issue is control, not just from the sense of doing things illegally, but control of their mouth, of running off, doing exactly what he's doing now. And that is sharing that he's a competent human source for the FBI. Because as soon as someone does that, they're done.
Yeah.
They're cut off. And if there's any hints that they might even do that, they won't even be considered for a competent human source. So our level of scrutiny, both at the case agent level, where it's me trying to recruit someone, and the checks and balances we have that go up the chain of command, especially if you're utilizing someone inside the prison system, because now, oh my gosh, the approvals you need to do something like this are profound, because you're going to have to let the prison know. You're going to have to let a prosecutor know. So every time you let more people know, the chances of him being discovered are even higher. So then there's a threat to him. Just see what I mean?
It doesn't exactly keep it confidential once you have to let everyone know, hey, by the way, this guy's over here doing this. Don't tell anyone.
And it totally negates the whole purpose of having one.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sort of sense.
None.
Let me ask you this. I mean, has there ever been situations where you have a confidential human source and, they are working it and they get caught up in something like this because I don't understand where on earth or how, murdering 4 people plays into any of this. But he's trying to play it off as a hit and he didn't get hit. So he got away and he took the baby. Is there ever a situation where the confidential human source ends up being in a situation like this? And this sort of thing happens where their life comes into danger. They were working, but now suddenly they're exposed and they try and say, look, I was just doing my job. And then the FBI says, you never worked for us. That's not true. You're full of shit. Would they ever admit if there was if they were a confidential human source? Period. I'm playing the role of the conspiracy theorists that are going to ask every damn question in the book on this.
Yeah, that is a possibility, because one of the things that you sometimes brief human sources on is that, hey, if you are discovered, we're going to deny. We're also very aware that they are not to conduct any illegal activity. And if they are, they're completely cut off and done and disowned. So there's a lot of prerequisites. I'm trying to remember the actual briefing. We actually had to give them this kind of briefing and actually have them sign a document that we put in our file saying that they've been briefed on their parameters on what they could and couldn't do and things like that. And so the conspiracy theorists, I'm on board with the fact that if he did something this heinous, that there's a potentiality of him being disowned and us denying it if it was true. But my counter to that is he would never been on board to begin with.
Sure.
There's the probability of him being on board. Now, could he have been on board at some point in his career and life? Possibly.
For something. Yeah.
So a lot of times what happens in life is people will take an instant and exaggerate it beyond what it actually is to fit their needs in the moment.
Sure.
And it's what I did when I was an undercover. When I was an undercover agent doing undercover work, I never really totally lied. I took an inkling of a hobby or an interest I had and accelerated it to what I actually did as a profession. So I was able to talk to it. I was able to be passionate about it. And so there's a possibility at some point he may have been, I don't know if he might have been opened up as a competent human source, but he might have been discussing and giving information back when he was a gangbanger still on the street, or when he's still dealing drugs. And so would he have been approached by law enforcement as a potentiality, hey, we can lessen your sentence or something like that earlier on in his criminal career if you did X, Y, and Z? That's a possibility, although he was really young, and typically dealing with someone so young when they're first incarcerated, like 14 years old.
Very young,
So I mean, again, that it keeps going back to, can you reasonably trust this individual to not disclose what it is they're doing to anyone? Can you trust the information they're providing? Can they maintain secure communications with us to keep themselves safe and keep the relationship safe? So the possibility, again, of him even doing it at some point in his life prior to this is so remote. So if that was to happen, I'll go down that road, the conspiracy theory road. The agent doing it would have had to been an idiot.
Yeah.
And the entire chain of command that authorized it. This would be like the dumbest thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, so play this one forward. Is there any investigation that he could actually provide information for that would be so valuable that they want that kind of risk? Because he is a high risk source. This dude is a bomb waiting to go off any moment. And that's very apparent to everyone on his entire arc. I mean, he's been a nutter his whole life. And so the probability of us want to have someone like that on board for any level of investigation, I don't care how profound it is, that's a push. That's a real, I just don't see it happen. I've never seen anyone like this coming on board.
Just, looking at his history. I mean, obviously this guy, he lies, he manipulates. That's his life. That's what he's done. He's been in and out of prison since he was a kid. So this is it's not necessarily out of the realm of his life arc to make things up. It's just this one sounds a little more interesting and gets a little more clicks and gets like, oh wow, this could be interesting. But other than that, that seems to be all that we're dealing with here. What I do wonder about this guy is this someone who's making things up to take the attention off of this murder or these murders for people and all of that? Or does he believe it? Does he, in his mind, when he was out there running through the woods for all those days and nobody could figure out where he was and they finally got him and is he conjuring this up, or does he believe? I'm wondering, did something snap in him, and does he believe that maybe it was part of his job to do this, to kill these people, for these murders to take place, and this was all part of this job and his role as this informant for the FBI. I'm wondering if he believes this, and this is what he's telling himself, and this is what he's telling others.
Yeah. In other words, does he believe his own shit?
Kind of Lori Daybell-ish in a totally different way. Yeah. Exactly.
So potentially. It's always hard to tell because we're not behind that screen.
Yeah.
And so here's another reason why polygraphs can't be admissible in court, because polygraphs, again, I know we didn't bring this up, but it just made me think of that.
Yeah.
Polygraphs measure, biological responses to stimulus. And so in other words, when you are under stress, your body does certain things that register stress. And that's what the machine reads is, are you under stress in this situation from what you normally are? And when we are lying or deceiving or reconsciously thinking bad thoughts, our body gets under stress. Fight or flight kicks in, even at a little granular level, and that machine can pick it up. And a good polygrapher can have a great interview and read the machine to see when stress is induced and what question caused it. And so that's why it's not admissible, is because if you are telling lies, but believe your own lies, like wholeheartedly believe your own lies, that you've created this fiction in your head, you're going to pass a polygraph. Yeah. Typically, we would not use polygraphs. They always wanted for high-end sources for us to actually polygraph the source to make sure they're not lying or deceiving us. And when you're working against some countries in the world, Russians are fantastic at passing polygraphs, even though they're lying their asses off. Yeah. Because they just believe their own shit. Yeah. And so we wouldn't do it because it was a completely useless thing. And so it's possible in this case that he is so immersed in his own fiction that he believes it. I have a hard time thinking that, though. He seems pretty, at least from the outside, he seems pretty conscious. I mean, he kind of taking this in the totality of him utilizing people and manipulating people. I saw this more as him using this story, this fabrication, so he could manipulate people onto his side, so they felt safer in saying yes to doing stupid shit for him. Because, well, if the government's on board, then I'll probably be protected too. And
Yeah.
he then just took it to the next level when kind of rationalizing to everyone that why he did what he did.
And that's going to be real fascinating because there's 3 other people who have been arrested and charged. Tanaka Brown, Dearrah Sanders, and Giovonte Thomas now facing charges for helping him after the murders. We still don't know what they knew about the murders. We don't know if they even knew that there was murders. We just know that they assisted him in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's important because it's easy to go, oh my God, this guy just killed all these people and you're all helping him? Who knows what they knew? They may have believed he was an FBI informant and they were doing the right thing, exactly like you just said. And well, then he may have been able to spin a really good game. I mean, the guy, he's 29. He's been in and out of jail for a long time, but he's been out. That's a big thing. Out for a long time, and obviously able to manipulate people. And I don't know much about these folks. Obviously, what they seem to be involved in. I'm going to guess maybe not the brightest, and might be easily manipulatable for someone like this. And that's the scary thing, is if you have someone out there like this saying these things, I really wonder what they knew about this man prior to saying, yeah, let me help him, what that relationship was right there.
Yeah, so he could probably, again, pure far out conjecture on this one. I mean, so, because I'm going to take in defense of the people that helped him, saying that they were duped by him. So it'd be very easy for someone that's got a lot of life skills in manipulation like he has and spinning yarns, because he was in the system, that there were people probably that had been informants for the FBI at some point or other. He watched some movies, he's heard these stories, and so he creates this fabrication. And so part of this fabrication could be, hey, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z, and I can pay you. And so when you're dealing with people that are having a hard time paying their bills, they might be on food stamps, I don't know what it is, and you have someone that's claiming, because they can really talk the crap really well, that they're under the FBI's control or law enforcement control, and if they help him, he can actually get them money as well, but through him to protect them. You can see them going along with it if he was able to paint that picture for them. What I also found interesting too, though, was people claiming, or him claiming, that he's close to people. I'm not buying that either, because he's not close to anyone. He's a total all about him. And I think he just manipulated the hell of people. I'd be interested to see what trauma bonding might have gone on with people along the lines with this guy too.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot in that chapter of his book. Without a doubt. I mean, how often do we see this? I actually had a conversation not long ago with someone who had to do a little digging. It was they knew someone who was claiming that they were at one point in time an FBI agent, not a source, not this, but like that they were this, and they went through a good chunk of their life with relationships with people, saying, "This is what I do. I can't talk more about it." That sort of thing.
Saying they were an agent.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you see it in movies. I mean, this guy is claiming, he's an informant. I mean, how often does this happen? I mean, do you recall much of this in your career in there, where you hear about, holy shit, look at how far this person went, duping these people, making this sort of claim? Is this a common thing in our society?
It happens.
Yeah.
We have this thing called holster sniffers.
Okay.
And these are people that just like sniffing up the sides of law enforcement or FBI, claiming, trying to have that notoriety by association. Yeah. I've seen it, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's just sad. But it's very verifiable though. That's why so here's something typical. So so here's a bit of public service information for folks out there. If anyone in your life is claiming that, I can't speak to the confidential human source side about how to verify that, because you shouldn't be able to verify that. Yeah. An FBI agent would never verify. Now, for employment, it really depends on. There's always depends.
Yeah, there's always the caveats. Yeah.
I mean, I've actually had a source of mine that became a friend after they're no longer a source, that actually applied to another 3-letter agency. And as she's applying to this 3-letter agency, another intel agency, and she wanted to put down how she's already helped out people like me.
Yeah.
And I've actually verified that for another 3-letter agency. Yeah, we actually had her open as a competent human source. I've actually done that for people's resumes. It's rare and depends on the circumstance and for who. I got permission, to do that sort of thing because again, you want the whole purpose of the Competent Human Source program is to get information to protect citizens and national security of the United States. And because it's such a confidential relationship, because the knowledge of the relationship could either hurt people, kill people, or damage professional or personal relationships. That's why we call that that's why we call it confidential, because it could do a lot of damage to people's lives. And so we're very, very reticent to let that knowledge out anywhere, because if we do haphazardly, who would want to sign up to be a competent human source? No one, because it destroys the brand of the confidentiality. And so that's why we're very, very reticent, if ever, to release that kind of information, verify that kind of information, because otherwise, why would, it's like, think about Apple. Apple doesn't like giving out any of the algorithms to crack into their phones, even to law enforcement. Why? Because you destroy the safety and security that people have in buying the product that I can keep myself private. It's the same kind of mentality of we just don't do that. Now on the FBI, on someone claiming they're an agent, that's actually really easy to verify. Say, well, all right, I understand you don't want to verify anything, which to me is a bunch of hogwash. I tell people all the time, because if you are a good human being and you're rolling in life like I do, trying to create great relationships, half the things you try to do is be proactive and find people that can help out. And the other half is to be the person that people want to come to. So you're this lighthouse, this beacon so it makes your job easier. And if people know what you do and are sensitized to the kind of person you are, I've had people volunteer to be sources for me because they knew where to find me.
Yeah.
But what you can do is you just say, all right, I understand you can't verify that. Tell me the field office you're out of, because there's only 56 of them. And then the individual can call the field office, the main number that you can find anywhere on the internet or anywhere, and just say, hey, all I need to do is verify this individual is an agent with the FBI. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to. Yeah.
And if they go, who?
The stories people come up with. Yeah. Well, I think at the end of it, we've determined it's a ha.
I think he's full of crap and going to jail for the rest of his life.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.